And welcome back to the Deep Rock Sports Extra, and I'm here with Ish Engel as we move on to our Central Tech Technically Perfect stats of the game. Ish is our official statistician for RDMG TV and the game official game stats as well. And so, Ish, we've got some stats to talk about with Kingfisher last week. Kind of a lopsided game, and certainly not in our favor, but let's go through the stats.
We have some really good Kingfisher stats. To tell you the truth, Nick Smith, number 25, who you probably know by now, he had 222 total yards rushing. The Tigers, as a team, had 227 total yards. So just to give you that right there, I think sums it up is in the
yeah, and typically that's uncharacteristic of us. We're used to seeing several of our guys carrying the ball for quite some yardage. But again, here.
Yeah.
Returning state champions. These guys, when they came out on the field, had a different presence about them, and so it was early. It was going to be kind of a long night with that, and right off the get-go, even tentatively, even talking about on our returns, we just really didn't have much of a return that I didn't think in the game.
No, we really didn't. We didn't have a single rusher over 50 yards. We had two rushers with 11 carries, one with 9, and the one with 9 was Ian. He had 18 yards. Guy Parker and Josh Houchins each had 11. Guy had 45. Josh had 43 yards. Ian was 7 of 20, were 88 yards passing, and like I say, just you didn't see a lot of good things out there. England Honeybus, 3 receptions, 46 yards. The rest of the receiving corps didn't really do that much.
Yeah.
We had a couple guys with multiple catches, but that was it.
In looking at Kingfisher as a whole, just talking about them for just a little bit, because has that been typically, of course, they did have the one loss with Hennessy earlier in the season, but typically is that kind of what you've seen based on your research?
Their numbers look very similar to what their normal season numbers are. They passed 13 times, they ran 26. They like to go about to 1 every 3 plays as a pass play.
Yeah.
And they did that exactly this game.
Well, when you have big, tall receivers like they did, and in our secondary, Blake Burden, 5'8", 5'9", there's a huge difference there. That's going to be part of their strategy coming into the game.
That being said, I thought he did a really wonderful job of trying to cover some of those tall
Sure.
guys. They had 125 yards passing. Their quarterback was 9 of 13, and I thought we actually did a pretty good job of forcing him scramble a few times. Yes, 9 of 13 and 125 looks really impressive, but 45 of that came on one play. We kept them underneath. We didn't really let them exploit the field. So there is a strength there. It wasn't all dark and gloom. And it was really their running backs, and specifically number 25, that 222 yards, that's just hard to get over. 44, Yeoman, who ran towards the end of the game, 6 carries, 32 yards. The rest of their runners had negative yards. Haub, -2, Smith, -4, Trout, -2, Buckner, -1, Schultz, -1. We really, overall, with the exception of that one Smith, we did a good job of shutting that running game down. He was big, he was powerful, he was shifty, he was quick, and he was fast. And
I think another thing that made the difference too was probably field position. If we ended up punting, giving up good field position, I think I don't know if you have anything on that, but it seemed like that we were still on the short end of the field there.
Right. I don't have much on that. I know that we punted 8 times, they punted 3 times, and that is kind of a factor there. Punts were about even, 30 yards each on average. We just did a lot more of it. We actually dominated time of possession. We had the ball for 29 minutes. They only had it for 19 minutes. But sometimes that's not a good stat.
Well, it's been a big shift from the game before where we had the Perkins game. 50-49, it looked like a track meet there, with 1,100 yards total. With that game and to this game, it just totally different.
Oh yes, total we had here in this game was 589 yards total, both teams.
Both teams.
And because we held them to 362 yards. So.
Yeah. Okay, let's move on. Let's talk about Centennial coming up. This will be a conference game that we have. Little town, a little charter school, I believe, outside of Oklahoma City, and we'll be going down there. What can you tell us about Centennial?
There's not a lot of stats out there on them. The only stat that's really out there prevalent is score, and score has not been in their favor most of the season. They've scored 93 points. They've allowed 204 points. They started off the season with a bang. They were 47-7 win over Capitol Hill, looking really good. And since then, the scores have been pretty much reversed. A 12-45 loss to John Marshall, 6-36 loss to Winningwood, 14-62 loss to Heritage Hall, and then last week Perkins took them 14-54. And it's been very one-sided, not in their favor.
Yeah. Well, it'll probably be a good time for us to play Centennial after these last couple of games. Kind of a vote of confidence. I mean, hopefully we get our game back on track and our stats will look more like what they have up to Kingfisher.
Right. I think we get that seven-headed monster running again and do some good things there.
Yeah. Well, we're going to look forward to that again. This has been, who's this?
Central Tech.
Technically
With
perfect.
campuses in Sapulpa and Drummer.
I know you're used to saying that. We appreciate Central Tech and Technically Perfect. Ish Engel. Joining me now in studio is Terry Brannon. And Terry, it's this time we kind of take a look around the district, kind of assess everything that's gone on up to this point, and so we can kind of let everybody know how everything's are stacking up. And, again, we've talked about the first two losses that Cushing has had by 1 point each, how that really makes a difference here and how this stacks up in our district standings.
Mike, it makes a huge difference. Right now Cushing is sitting 5th in district behind Blackwell, who's 0-1. Of course, we're 0-2. But let's just start at the very top.
Okay.
Right now, Heritage Hall is ahead in our district. Heritage Hall stands with an overall record of 4 wins and 1 loss. They had 1 loss to Davis, obviously a perennial power year in and year out. Obviously, Kingfisher sitting at number 2. Kingfisher sets up with an overall record of 4-1, having suffered a loss to Hennessy, a cross-county rivalry. Perkins, whom we had 2 weeks ago, had a big win over Centennial this past weekend. They're currently sitting at 2-0 in district and 4-1 overall. And then it drops to Blackwell, who had their first district game this past Friday night, and of course was beaten by Heritage Hall.
Yeah. Let's go back and talk about the Perkins thing because before this last week, 2 points separated us from being at the top of the district, and now we find ourselves in 5th place.
Yes,
and we haven't been there in the last 3 or 4 years.
We haven't. It's a new place to be. But I think that the kids have something to strive for. There's still plenty of football left to play for, but not much.
Yeah.
The time window is really closing down.
Let's talk about Manford because they had a 1 point victory, as I understand it, over Legion, a private school.
Oklahoma City Legion was a homeschool team. I had an opportunity to talk to one of the assistant coaches from Manford yesterday, and they beat them 15-14. Gave them all they could stand. Of course, that was Manford's first win. They're actually 1-4. Had a lot of kids graduate last year, so they've really been taken down. Then, of course, at the very bottom of our district is Centennial, whom we play this coming Friday. They currently sit with a record of 1-4 as well. They beat John Marshall earlier this year, and that's been the only win that they've had.
Do you know much about Centennial? They're kind of they're not homeschool, but they're just a charter school.
They're part of the Oklahoma City Public School District. They are a charter school. I do know this for sure. They have Don Willis there coaching. Don coached for 22 years at Oklahoma City Millwood. Mm-hmm. While he was there at Millwood, he had a 9-year stint where he was the head coach, and for 3 years in a row, they won the state championship.
Wow.
So Don Willis brings a lot of experience. He's been in Texas the last few years, but this is I believe it's going to be his 3rd year there, possibly at Oklahoma Centennial. So he brings a lot of experience, and something that hasn't really been talked about a lot is that Centennial, they suffered a lot from graduation last year, but they have a tremendous junior high program that won the All-City Championship last year. So, Centennial's just on the cusp.
They're building a program.
Absolutely. The same thing I think that Cushing's done here. So they're just on the cusp with a great coach and a great coaching staff to really getting over the hill.
Well, that's good insight to know about that. Of course, we'll go down there. We're not going to take anything for granted.
Absolutely.
For sure about that. But it just goes to show you that, when you look around the district, now we need 3 wins, basically, to see postseason play. And, Centennial could be one of them. Blackwell could be another one. Manford could be another one to really get us in there. But right now, we're sitting with, 3 3 losses.
We're sitting with 3 losses. We're 0-2 in district play. Of course, we have a tough Heritage Hall team that's going to be coming up pretty soon. So, you know, a lot of those you're going to have to really, really buckle down on. And like you said earlier, I don't think you take any of those teams for granted. When everybody's clawing their way into the playoff picture,
Sure.
I think everything becomes important, no matter if you're Centennial, no matter if you're Blackwell.
Yeah. You know, it's just going to be interesting to see how this all kind of plays out. But again, you know, Centennial will just have to take a look and see. I don't know if they've got any returners coming back from last year or what.
You know, they had 15 kids graduate last year, which really hurt them. They had their first winning season since the school was formed. They finished at 6-5 last year. So you know, they've taken a little bit of a dive, but again, you know, it's one of those teams that you don't know you're going into their house.
Yeah.
So you don't know you know what they're going to be looking for in terms of how they perceive us.
All right. Well, you know, that kind of gives us a pretty good picture around the district.
Absolutely.
And every game from this point out is a must-win, really, for us. So we haven't seen ourselves in this position with 3 losses this early in the season under the Shoop regime.
And you know, you're absolutely right. But you know, I will say this: it is mission possible. It is mission possible. There are some games here that we can win, and I believe we're fully capable of climbing back in the playoff
Sure.
picture, Mike. So it is mission possible.
Yeah. Well, this will be a good week. Like I say, coming off of Kingfisher, going to Centennial, I mean, good opportunity for our kids to kind of regroup and get their heads
Absolutely.
into it. And it's more mental at this particular point,
Right.
Having the confidence to go in
Right.
there with that. So,
Right.
hey, this has been a look around the district, giving us an idea of kind of where we're sitting at this particular point. Joining me has been Terry Brannon. Red Dirt Roundtable is coming up. We'll be right back with more of the Deep Rock Sports Extra right after this.